Welcome to the Brand Theory Podcast, the podcast for helping you uncover your passion, realize your purpose, and take the aligned action. Together, we're going to prove the theory that when we live our lives on brand, the possibilities become limitless. I'm your host, Danielle Marquesi, branding expert and business coach. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Brand Theory Podcast. Today, we are speaking with a very special guest, Madison Anaya. Madison Anaya is your community-obsessed gal who is everyone's biz bestie wingwoman. She's the host of The Fearless Chase, a business education platform and community that helps female creative entrepreneurs build businesses and lives centered around what truly matters to them. Her mission is to connect women with top experts to help them grow their businesses in a sustainable way with a group of like-minded women by their side. She believes that whoever said you shouldn't mix business and play was totally doing it wrong. Welcome to the show, Madison.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here.
Yeah, guys, we had a conversation, I guess a couple of weeks ago, probably almost a month ago, back in DMs or Facebook messaging. I don't even know at this point. And I just loved the conversation so much. And I can't wait for you guys to hear what I heard in a totally new way. So super excited to have you. The first question I have for you is, in your own words, I know we heard a little bit about you in your intro, is kind of explain who you are, maybe a little bit of your background and your entrepreneurial journey so far and how you kind of got to this point.
Yeah. So my journey, like most people in entrepreneurship or business, started out in a place that I did not expect at all. So I, in 2016, married my middle school sweetheart. Yes, middle school. Middle school. And I knew that it would be hard, but I didn't realize how hard our particular story would be. And so within the first couple months of getting married, I ended up totaling my car, which like really isn't a big deal unless you just spent all of your savings on a wedding and you barely had that deductible in savings. And then a few months after that, unfortunately, we were sitting around the table at a funeral home planning out my father-in-law's funeral. So, barely being married for not even 6 months and now having to walk your husband through losing a parent, very hard. Then a few months after that, our house flooded in a hurricane.
Oh my goodness.
And we didn't have flood insurance. So trying to figure that out. And then a few months after that, my mother-in-law got cancer. So, dealing with your husband who just lost one parent to cancer, now his other parent has cancer. And then a few months after that, my parents got divorced. And it was like every 3 months, it felt like the world was going to end. And I kind of just got into this rut of not only telling myself, but also hearing from everyone else, like, oh, you poor thing, you just can't catch a break. And I, like most people, absolutely cannot stand feeling like the victim in a situation. Like that is like the worst feeling in the world, because like most women as well, I feel like we're kind of control freaks at some points. And so it's like when you feel like your entire world is out of your control, it's like, where is something that I can grasp onto? And in that same season, I also came across kind of these more personal development style podcasts and books and all these different things, which I did not even know that was a realm outside of church. I grew up in church and that's kind of the only space I knew that in. And someone had reached out to me and offered to give me a free ticket to this women's conference in LA. Sounded very fancy for this little Houston gal who has never been really anywhere. And so to say like, oh, I'm flying to LAX, like I felt very Miley Cyrus or whatever. And so
she's hopping off that plane.
But I just remember sitting in that conference and feeling like the little kid who is at his first like NFL game and saying like, this is what I want to do with my life. And because I had always loved being on stage, I did competitive dance. I was always in the band at church. I was always singing and speaking and doing all these things, but I didn't know that there was that space specifically just for women in this kind of more business and personal development realm. And so I was going to school at the same time, being a newlywed, dealing with all of those different things. And I was working in my corporate job, doing all the millions of different hats, because it happened to be a small business where there's like 15 people. So your hat, your title changes every day. And I left that conference and I thought, I think I want to start a podcast and really learn from other people of how they have figured out like how to fearlessly chase after their own dreams. Because clearly there were people that I was learning from, these experts, these speakers on the stage who had figured it out. And I wanted to know, is there a through line here? Is there some commonalities, whether you are a fashion designer or a business mogul or a brand designer or all these different kinds of things? I wanted to know if there was something in there. And I I ended up interviewing a gal named Michaela Quinn who taught women how to be a virtual assistant. And I did not know that that was a thing. I thought VA meant veterans. Like, I did not know that this was a real job. I didn't realize that most of the stuff I was doing at my corporate job that I could do on my own, freelancing and making more money and getting to work from home in my PJs and whatever was like a possibility. And so I ran with that episode, ended up reaching out to a few others who had been on my podcast because most of them were in business. And I reached out and I said, hey, I now offer these services. Within about 3 months, I filled up my entire client roster and was able to leave my job. And from there, I pivoted so many different times. And I feel like not a lot of people mention that in their business story of how many pivots it actually takes to land on the thing.
Which is something we're going to get into, guys, because it's really, really important.
Yeah, right? Like everyone who's listening who's like, I'm so multi-passionate and I don't know what I want to do and I want to try all these different things. Like, I'm in that boat with you. I've done it. I've pivoted so many different times. And I have finally gotten to the space where I'm like, this is where I really feel like this is my jam. And I don't have to be the main expert who has all the answers and all the things. Is my expertise is like bringing the right people in the room and making it fun and not intimidating. Like, I like to joke that I'm the online community cruise director, but at this point in 2020, like, I really think if I put that in my bio that people would think that cruises were really going online and this was a new like vacation experience.
I mean, sign me up. I'm down. Let's go. Everyone's itching to go, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of, my journey of how I got to where I am now with the Fearless Chase as a business education platform, connecting people who are not necessarily in their very first stage of business, but they're not like super balling either. They're in that middle stage where they feel like, where's the space for me? I don't really feel like anyone's speaking to me. So that's what this is for.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I always appreciate hearing people's stories because when I was, in that research phase of starting a business, I was constantly looking for these stories, like this proof that it could work for me, that everyone is just like me in some form or the other, whether it's something they've been through, a job that they worked, or just a passion they have. Just seeing and hearing these stories over and over and over again was something that really just lit the fire under my ass a little bit and just made me see that I can do it. So thank you so much for sharing that story with us. I would love now to hear a little bit more about like how you intentionally work with your clients. So is it just you're the cruise director of this community? Do you work with clients one-on-one? I really want people to get kind of the picture of what you do.
Yeah. So, I pivoted from being a virtual assistant to being a content strategist, and that was all very one-on-one work. And I realized that where I really felt called to was one-to-many. And so I, at this point, only host the Fearless Chase Academy, which is the membership business education platform where we bring in top experts each month to do a deep dive on different topics that are foundational in growing and scaling your business. Because I think a lot of times we have to figure it out. So we just do what we have to do. And we end up skipping over a lot of really important steps, like how to properly set up your accounting or how to properly know how to PR and market yourself. Those kinds of things, because we're so focused on this is my skill and I need to grow my clientele. And that is important in the beginning. But then when you get to that middle part and you're like, how do I actually scale this? You have to kind of go back to those basics and those deep foundations of knowing this is how you run a successful business, not just this is how you have a skilled craft and you're trading time for money kind of thing.
Yeah. I feel like I was one of those people who was starting on so focused on making the money to survive that I really let the other things go, like setting up a CRM or setting up the proper accounting channels and PR, it's like sort of what I do. Not really. I don't really call it PR, but so I kind of had that, but it's still like, okay, I could totally feel like I could go back and relearn that stuff because now that we're at this point in our business, whether you're a year in, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you've changed. So what you may have listened to a free training back then or paid for a membership, that you could go back and get something completely different out of it because you yourself are so different. And that's the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is you grow so quickly and you become a completely different person in a matter of 6 months, which is really, really cool.
Oh yeah, totally. I am not the same person that I was 6 months ago or 6 months before that, or you're constantly changing.
Yeah. Does that scare you ever? We're kind of getting a little bit off topic, but does that scare you knowing that you're constantly kind of evolving?
I don't think I've ever really thought about it that way. I've never thought about like, is that scary? It's more so exciting to me. I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram at all, but I am a 7 to a T. So like everything.
To a T.
Okay. So like everything is exciting to me. For those
Yeah.
of you who aren't familiar with the Enneagram, the 7 is the enthusiast. They are that more like kind of childlike mind towards life of everything is exciting. Everything's a possibility. Everything's an opportunity kind of person who obnoxiously looks at the silver lining at everything. And so, to a fault sometimes. So to me, I don't think that it's necessarily scary about changing. It's more so like, how can I change in the right direction?
Sure.
And kind of overthinking that sometimes.
Yeah. And just one more question while we're on that topic. I found that I've changed so much. And again, it's not in a bad way at all, right? It's personal development, it's work that we're doing on ourselves. So I've found that my close relationships have improved, but at the same time, I've had to let other friendships go. And it's not like okay, I'm breaking up with you because you don't fit my realm now. It's more of just like, they don't really fit in my kind of life now. And it's just, they're on their own path and that's great. And I wish them all the best, but this is kind of my own thing. Did you find that happen to you at all?
I think this is something that every single business owner goes through.
Yeah.
The reason why I created the Fearless Chase community, which was like the extension from the podcast, is because I personally needed it. I am a very extroverted person. I've
just
had
give me the shells.
yeah, like I have had my OG friends my entire life. I've had the same best friends since I was 3, 5, and 8.
Guys, she married your middle school sweetheart.
I married my middle school sweetheart. Seriously, like when we say when you and I become friends, like you're locked in for life. So I hope you liked me. And so for me, yeah, it was really difficult. And I was really lonely because my friends were all in the space of, they were still graduating college, getting their big girl adult jobs in corporate. And especially when you're already, self-doubting so much in your business journey, and then you're feeling all of this imposter syndrome. Yeah. And then you see your friends who are like getting advances in their corporate ladder. You're like, oh my God, did I do the right thing? Like, it's so hard. And so it is hard at times to find commonalities. Yeah. But for me personally, my core group of friends we have so many other things that bring us together.
Of course.
But I have had other friends who, are seasonal, have come and gone because of that. But I think that when you do reach that season that you mentioned where you kind of can come up for air, like you're not in survival mode anymore, and you're able to really focus on, okay, now how do we sustain this? Yeah. Making it intentional about finding other people in business that you can become friends with, not just network, but like genuine friendships. Yeah. It's really important.
That community is so important and something I didn't think I needed. When I started,
a lot of people don't think they do.
Because I feel like I was talking to a client about this week. I almost felt like embarrassed to tell people that I was starting a business or that I wanted to do this because it sounded so freaking crazy at the time, but I knew I was going to do it, right? Because that's going against the grain of everything that I grew up knowing, everything that I was taught. You go to school, you go to college, you get a job, and that's like just where you are. And hopefully you can just climb that kind of corporate ladder, which is amazing for some people. And they love that kind of comfortability and that they know what they're doing every day. But to me, that just wasn't working. And I was trying to like force myself into that. So to admit to myself first that I didn't want that was fine. But then to actually, like, I was in that research phase of constantly staying up late, reading blogs, watching YouTube videos. And I eventually, stumbled upon my coach and took that whole route. But I was almost like embarrassed to tell my friends that I was doing this. Like I kept it a secret for a while. I didn't tell my mom for a while. It was very much just my own thing. But having that community, like I did hire a coach and I met some people fairly quickly, but having that community of just being able to talk about that, like that, I'm like scared to tell people about this, was so great to be able to talk through that with somebody, because now you're going through, eventually, you quit your job and whatever, but then it's like, okay, I don't have anybody in my office with me. I can't run an idea by them. So having that community like yours, or if it's a mastermind or something else, but true, genuine friends, like I could message you at 2 p.m. and you could answer me not until 6 because you're busy, but I know that you're going to answer me because you're in this kind of journey with me and you're on your own and I'm on my own. But you get that kind of like trenches, that depths of what's going on inside my entrepreneur crazy mind.
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing. It's like, how do I find people who get it? And it's
Mm.
like, that's the biggest thing. That's what I used to talk about all the time when I was saying like, hey guys, if you're looking for other women who get it, being a business owner, come be a part of our community, because that's what this is. And recently I had just a really small little gathering of other women in business in my area over for a little Christmas girls night.
Yeah,
And it was so much fun. But all of us said like, oh man, we really miss having the corporate Christmas party, or when it's your birthday and the HR team brings in a cake. Like you miss out on that stuff when you're still in those first trenches, those middle trenches. Even if you have a remote team, like once you've built out a team, you really don't have that. And so being able to have, especially even people in person, I know that's, really hard depending on where you live right now in this quarantine world, but to be able to say like, okay, this is our quote unquote corporate party. Like getting to still be a part of those kinds of things, right? Like that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more like about the experts that you bring into your community, what that kind of looks like being a part of your Fearless Chase community.
Yeah. So the Fearless Chase community is a little bit different than the academy in the sense that the academy is like one step further. So the community is like all of our free resources, the podcasts, blogs. We have guest people come in and do trainings in our free Facebook group, all of that kind of stuff. The academy is, I have a weird gift of just connecting with people. And I look back and I'm like, how are we friends? Like, how do I know you? Like, how does this happen? And so I have connected with just incredibly, incredibly successful women in business. And I felt selfish holding that to myself. And so I wanted to bring my expertise of community building and connecting into a space where that could be utilized. And so for instance, like I have a friend in business who literally has built her business to over $1 million in revenue in less than a year of owning her business.
Wow.
And two out of the, I guess, 6 experts that we had this last semester had worked with people like J-Lo and A-Rod and Jordan and Julie, a lot of these like larger names that are like, yeah, flashy, cool, like name drop, whatever. But these are really big deal people that, if I have a connection to them, I want to share that. I don't want to just be like, oh, cool, I know this. I'm in this upper circle. No, girl, I am as full as they come. Like as we're recording this, I have like almost no makeup on. I'm in like a t-shirt and track shorts. Okay. I am chill and casual as they come. But if I have something, I always want to be able to share it with the people I know. And so, each month we do a deep dive. So in last semester, we had one of the months was how like quarterly planning and getting really structured on planning out your year, all of that. So we had Joelle Elizabeth, who was amazing at planning out all your different goals and how to break those down into like, this is exactly what you're doing every day. She did a deep dive training, and then our community members or our academy members also got to do a live Q&A with her. So that's the big selling point as well, is like, it would normally cost thousands of dollars to get to work with these experts, and you're getting to jump on a Zoom call with them and ask them your personal business questions for $57 a month. And it's that's like amazing. When people see that and they're like, holy crap, like if I wanted to work with that person, it's $8,000 or whatever, like that's a big deal. And we also like to pair it with a bonus training that correlates. So then we had Barry on Barry, who is a period expert, period coach, who teaches women how to align their cycles with their schedule, which again, just like,
I need that.
Right? Like it's so interesting. And so again, it's like, oh my God, like, yeah, our community needs that. Come in. And we try to custom tailor everything that we're doing ahead of time to our community. So as we were planning out for our next semester, like I don't have the whole year already planned out because I don't know what our community members are going to need in that moment. So we're listening, and then we're implementing as fast as we can.
Yeah, I love that.
Like next semester, we're talking about accounting, legal, productivity, because everyone was saying like, I don't actually know about legal stuff. It freaks me out. Or I don't know about accounting stuff. It freaks me out. So we're like, all right, we're on the ball. We've got it for you. Let me find a connection. We'll bring it to you right away.
Yeah. I love that. That's so cool. And I love what you kind of said earlier. And it's really about community and collaboration rather than competition, which I think is so important to highlight about this world that we've kind of found or tapped into, because I think that's a big fear factor of people stalling or not thinking that they're good enough, that there's too many people to compete with. But it really is like everybody can find their own unique corner of the internet, have your own success. There's more than enough to go around, and there's more than enough communities like yours that are willing to just help people be successful, because it's not about, if you believe, there's more than enough income, clients, communities, all of that. you're going to get the abundance back. But if we're going into this fearful of, I don't think this can work for me, then you're going to get those kind of restrictions back. So thanks for creating an awesome community for us.
Yeah, it's honestly been my pleasure. And
Yeah.
I just love getting to connect with the other women in there and truly, truly celebrate them. Like one of my favorite things is to send handwritten notes. And I feel like my hand's going to fall off every single day because I'm sending a note like, oh my gosh, I just saw that you launched your rebrand, or, oh my gosh, you just got your first paid client. That's so exciting. Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that you also love writing handwritten
Yeah,
notes. Like,
I mean, I don't do it as much because my handwriting looks like I always relate to a third grade boy.
Oh,
but but I do, like, once I sign a new client, I will send them a little gift and a handwritten note, and I have received the same like message.
So sweet.
That just makes a difference, and that's the brand experience that like you bring to your community, because there's plenty of community people out there who run a community. But what sets you apart is how you do it, and like what experts you bring in and the personality that you bring in, which is the perfect pivot into our next topic of I want to talk a little bit about personal branding. So the first question I have about that is, who is Madison the brand?
That is a good question. I feel like our brand as a whole is, and I say our because it is a team, like I do have a team that does help me now. We are very big, like our core values, number one, is that everyone has a seat and voice at the table. So that's like a big deal for me. It's not just like, oh, you have a seat at the table and this is a fan club and keep your mouth shut and like only like praise me for what I'm doing. I'm not about that. Like I want you to bring your expertise to the table too. I want you to feel like you are valued, and not just feel like it, but you actually are valued in this community. If you see someone asking a question and you know the answer, 100% step up. Like you, it's not like you don't have something to bring to the table just because you weren't listed as one of our quote unquote experts for that month. And then the second thing is that we are huge on collaboration, which you had mentioned. Like that's a really big deal to me. Like actually supporting one another and believing in one another is huge in everything that we create and how we talk to each other and all of that kind of stuff. And the last thing that I think really kind of sums up our brand is we add fun to everything that we do. So like we have events every month where we do like online trivia nights or scavenger hunt nights, or like all kinds of fun stuff, because I wanted to, and that's a big reason why we do the handwritten notes too, because I wanted to add this element of personalization, fun, excitement back to business. Because when you took the leap of faith and handed in that 2 weeks notice, that was the most exciting day of your business journey.
I have a picture of that day.
Right? Me too. And since then, it's been a roller coaster of emotions and like highs and lows. And so if we can just be reminded even a hint of that excitement again, like that goes a really long way. Getting to connect with women who get it and actually not have to talk about business in that capacity, that's huge too, right? So that's why I host trivia nights, because it's like, hey, we all get it, but we're actually just not going to talk about business right now, because this is our chance to have fun and connect in another way and take it a step further. It's kind of like, you know, I don't know if you grew up in church, but like my church friends, right? Like just because that's where we met doesn't mean that like every conversation we have is surrounded by faith and all of that. Like we'll just talk about all the other things too. So having that fun element, that personalized element is a really, really big core value for us.
Yeah, I love that. I like want to be a part of this community.
Yes, you are so welcome.
I'm down for trivia, and I'm not very good at it, but I appreciate.
You don't even have to be good at it. It's fun.
I just appreciate what you're saying of like, okay, it doesn't need to be business all the time. And like you said, we get it, but we also get that we need to fucking take a break, take a step back. Sorry, I'm cursing and just get excited about these things.
No, girl, you're good.
Be human and just be connected with one another on that basic human level of life. And that's really important to incorporate those fun things, especially now, especially with all this craziness of 2020. It's like, no, we can still have time for the trivia nights, for the fun stuff, and still have killer businesses. But let's take a break to kind of fill our own cups before we fill other people's cups, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. And that's like my main kind of mission is let's teach women how to do life together again, because even before the pandemic, we didn't know how to do life together anymore, honestly.
Oh my God, you're so right. You're so right.
I mean, I even noticed it with my friend group that I mentioned earlier, right? Like we'll all get together and we're all on our phones. And so since high school, we have had this saying in our friend group, hang up and hang out. And we'll like obnoxiously, like passive aggressively say it. Like if everyone's on their phone, like someone will say, hang up and hang out, like as your way of saying like, okay, we only get together so many times a year.
Yeah.
Like, be present. Like, here we all are.
Absolutely.
And not even just in the digital space, but like socially, like all the anxiety, like there's just so many elements that go into us forgetting how to do life together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I try to bring it back to the basics of, okay, what did I always love growing up? I loved getting letters from my Nana. And when I became an adult, those were the only things that made it into my inbox that were not a freaking bill or add to something that I did not need to spend money on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bath and Body Works, for always reminding me I need more candles. But I wanted, that personal touch that made me excited about life, just going and doing ordinary things like getting my mail. And that's something that you can take into your business. It's like, okay, if you're worried about gaining visibility, what if you took that visibility offline and met them in a place that they never expected, aka their mailbox?
Yeah, that's so, so true. So true. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Pivoting a little bit. So you got the result of the creative in the brand superpower quiz. Do you feel like that's totally you? And how do you bring that into your business?
Oh yeah, I'm totally the creative. Like I mentioned earlier in our talk, I am the Enneagram 7. So being super duper organized and structured is not really my specialty. I am really great at, here are all the ideas, and here's, vision casting and planning out ideas and how can we make it better and how can we make it bigger and how can we bring fun into this? Like, that's my specialty and that's what I'm good at. And that's why I have a team member who is my online business manager who reins me in and says, okay, maybe we can do that next quarter. Let's focus on what we said we were going to do for this quarter.
Keep you on track.
Totally reins me back in, keeps me on track, and I need that.
Yeah, I love that. How do you, because I watch you on Instagram now that we're connected, and you definitely kill the whole incorporating your lifestyle into your social media and also sharing all the biz things with us. But how do you kind of keep that balance of being present in your life, being present online, being present for your clients, for your community? How do you do it all?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't do it all because I do have a team. And also, just FYI, I also at least once a month around my period cry and feel like I'm dropping on the balls too.
Amen.
Okay. So like 100%. And if someone says that they don't do that, like, I feel like you're lying, or like you just have like this secret like thing that you're not sharing with everyone, and that's not cool. Like, share it with the rest of us, because for sure, when it's the week of my period, that's when my like heightened,
anxiety, emotion,
and totally. And that's
I'm not
when
good enough. Why am I even doing this?
The comparison. You bring up that one girl on Instagram that you all comparing yourself to, and you're like, quit looking at her Instagram. She's beautiful. Leave her alone. Like, let her live her life. She didn't do anything to you. And so, I don't feel like I do it all. But as far as like balancing being present on social media with lifestyle and business, I have my work hours set. I work from home currently. My husband is partially working from home with the quarantine going on. And so he knows like I'm in my office, like please try not to bug me 5 trillion times a day. But sometimes he does come in just to tell me that he misses me, which like I love. Thank you so much.
Super adorable, but please leave me alone.
Adorable, but like bring me coffee when you come.
Make sure you put extra vanilla in. Thanks.
Yes. But for me, like I don't want to have a business if I don't get to share my life as well. And maybe that's like me being the baby of the family who's like, I want what I want, how I want it, like just being a brat basically. But truthfully, I did not leave the cushion of a corporate life to grow a business that I don't even want. And so, and I did that for the first year and a half of growing a virtual assistant business and then growing a content strategy business. I was like, why am I doing that? Like, this is what I'm good at, but it's not what I'm passionate about. It's not what I love. It's not what gets me up in the morning. Like, what gets me up in the morning is, again, helping people learn how to do life together and connecting and community building. And I just didn't know that that was possible until I was like, well, 2020, if anything, has just shown you that you can just try, because this is the year that everyone is just trying whatever works. And so we're just going to try. So I do love to incorporate a lot of the lifestyle stuff. Almost to a fault sometimes, to where I'm like, oh yeah, we should probably talk about business too.
No, but I think that's such a powerful way. And again, especially now, to show people that you're that real human behind the business, that you can possibly be the same person who, not the same person in your own way, who has like the crazy, awesome lifestyle, whether we're living at home 24/7 or we're going out and traveling or going to the coffee shop or whatever, and also have the very successful business. I think by displaying that, and you're saying almost so far, but I feel like it's entertaining to me, and I'm just a community consumer, but it's giving somebody permission to try. It's giving somebody permission to show it too. It's giving somebody permission to just show up, get up to the plate, and just give it a shot. So thank you for showing that.
Well, what I think is important when it comes to, because I realized, like, as you were speaking that back, that I may not have given super tangible advice on that. And more tactical advice on this is you have to determine what your own version of success is. And so for me, I'm not going to lie, I had worked with and had the opportunity to, again, one of those things where it's like, how did I even get in this room? How did I get on the Zoom call? I have no idea. But getting to ask some of these top mentors that it would like blow your mind of like, oh, like, how is she getting to talk to her? Getting to ask them my biggest insecurity of, can I be successful if I'm not a workaholic? That was my real question, because 100% I am not a workaholic. And then that may not resonate with a good portion of your audience, because I know that a lot of people in business are workaholics, and that's I'm not at all. And it really made me scared for a long time. Maybe I'm not cut out for this because I don't want to work on the weekends. Maybe I'm not cut out for this because I don't want to work nonstop and never have time for my family or friends or whatever. But when you have been through any kind of loss or grief or anything, which everyone at some point does, it always kicks in what matters most. And because I had built my business out of that, that was my one thing I could control. I knew that's my time is so freaking important to me. Quality time is 100% my love language. People being late is 100% my biggest pet peeve, because time is so important. And so to me, my version of success is getting to have nights off, weekends off. I do not work on the weekends unless it is a special project and it is a specialty kind of thing. And so that's how I have personally balanced, quote unquote, life and business. Because from the start, that was more important to me than scaling to 6 figures in 6 months. Like I've seen other people do, and they have been able to do that because they have given up things that weren't as important to them. But for me, that wasn't the case.
Yeah. And if that's like what you want to do, then go for it. But I think what you're saying, what I completely agree with, is you have to decide what works for you. And whether that comes stemming from going through losses or something different, when you decide on your boundaries, guys, stick to them, because I was somebody who did not stick to them. And that's when burnout happens. That's when a little bit of the anxiety happens, and maybe a touch of depression, because you're like, what the heck did I just do to myself? And you're working 20 hours a day. You're working on the weekends. You're working through holidays. I was working on Thanksgiving my first year in business because I felt like I had to. Like, if I didn't do this, my clients were going to quit on me. I wouldn't have money to pay my rent. And it's just the snowball effect, right? But if I had just set those boundaries from the start for myself, I would have worked more efficiently on my own, and my clients know not to expect certain things from me and only to expect other things. And it's interesting that you said that about your losses. I went through the loss of a parent when I was younger, 13 to 14, but it's like clicking for me now. Like, this is turning into a little bit of a therapy session over here.
Isn't that what business is though?
Yeah,
just therapy.
Totally. Yes. That I took that whole time is very precious thing with me through college. And I was the person who, I know I have that paper due, but I'm going to take the night off and just do my own thing because I feel like I needed to. And that followed me through everything, through work, through business. And it was never natural for me to be working 20 hours. It was always something that I hated. And just, I very much appreciate the point that you made. Like, time is so precious, and my time is so precious. So if I want to stop at 4 to watch a Christmas movie, even if it's super corny, I've watched it 5 times already, I'm going to do that, because that's what's going to make me feel efficient in the next time I sit down at my laptop. And it could look like something completely different. It could look like a bath, a call with a friend, something, but we have to make sure that we are okay, especially as business owners who give so much. We have to make sure that we are okay first, and that we're respecting our boundaries. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, so switching a little bit, Were there some major fears? You kind of touched on this a little bit. Were there some major fears that you had to navigate specifically around the pivots? Because this is something every entrepreneur experiences at some point, whether that's a pivot to completely take on something new. Like me, I was originally a brand designer, website designer, and pivoted to strictly coaching and some brand management work, but I don't really do website design anymore. But that was super scary because that was like my most high ticket item. That's how I was making my money, but I freaking hated it. So having those fears of, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make any money or I'm not going to get the clients, or is that something that you also experienced, and how did you kind of navigate that?
Absolutely. So going from virtual assistant to content strategist, my biggest fear was that I would not have any clients, or I would lose all my clients from virtual assistant, because I was kind of pivoting over. And yeah, I did lose all of my clients. And so the worst happened. The worst thing happened, and I still found new clients and still made it work, and it was still fine. Then I threw a conference and I publicly called my shot of how many tickets I wanted to sell. And my biggest fear was, oh my gosh, what if I don't sell as many tickets as I've been publicly telling everyone and rooting together and teaming up and all that kind of stuff? What if they see me not reach it, and then they think, in my head, this is what's going on. Oh, wow, she didn't hit her goal. So that must mean that she's not worth going to, because clearly no one cares about her. That's my insecure voice. Okay, guess what? I did not hit my goal, and I publicly shared it. And that is still one of the most proud days of my life, is that conference.
I have chills this entire conversation. This is so good.
Well, I was just so proud of that day because I was so scrappy and I wanted it so bad. And I was just proud that I freaking did it. And we do not, as business owners, take time to allow ourselves to be proud of ourselves. Because number one, that's quote unquote wasting time, and we have to be efficient, looking forward, and blah, blah, blah. No, girl, you worked your ass off for this. Celebrate that. And I don't just mean woohoo with an emoji on stories. I mean, legit, go celebrate, go get a pedicure, go out with your friends, go have a girls' night, whatever. You had mentioned, like, if it makes you feel like you're going to be more efficient the next day to turn off your laptop at 4, that is a big element that we have in our heads. Is I think that's what sells business owners on finally taking rest, is because they think like, oh, we'll actually be able to be more efficient. But what if we also, like, I feel like once you move past that, you can realize I'm allowed to do this because I'm allowed to be happy.
To do this. Yeah.
Because I'm allowed, because I'm a freaking human. Like, I should be allowed to watch a movie because it makes me happy. And it does not have to make sense to anyone. It doesn't have to be productive. It doesn't have to be efficient. It doesn't have to benefit anything other than just making you happy.
You're so right. That's so
You're so such a good hype girl. Like, we are officially best friends.
I have gotten that before. Like, if you need a hype girl, call Danielle up. I just feel like I'm that person. I think it kind of pulls into the two, being on the Enneagram. It's like, I'm that person that people go to de-stress and all that kind of stuff. But at the end, I make sure you walk away feeling confident AF that you can handle whatever shit comes your way.
I love
that. That's awesome. So this is a similar question. Was there ever a time in your business or your life that you felt like you were living off brand? You weren't being authentic to yourself or your business? And how did you navigate to living back on brand?
Oh, girl, yes. Yes. When I first started, I was so insecure because I had quit college. I mean, I had an associate's, but I was going for my bachelor's in communications, which at this point I'm like, okay, I already run a podcast. I clearly already run, like, I don't need to learn this in a school setting. And I didn't enjoy it in a school setting. So I was insecure that I didn't have this degree or this corporate background, right? Like, I worked at a small family-owned business. I say corporate because it makes sense and people understand that in their heads if you say like 9 to 5 or corporate, but I did not work in a sky rise in New York City with all this fancy language and experience and all this kind of stuff. And also when I started my business, I was 23. So I
think I was too.
Yeah. I don't know why in my head I thought no one's going to take you seriously. You're 23. Probably because growing up, a lot of my friends were outside of my core group of friends. A lot of my friends that I made were 5-6 years older than me. And I was always called, you're such a baby. You're such the baby of the group. Oh my God, you were born in 94. Oh, you're such a baby. And now, like, now I'm like, well, now we're pushing 26 next week. So like not so much a baby anymore when you start working like more towards 30. But at the time, I just really bought into this lie that no one's going to take me seriously because I'm so young. And so that played into me showing up on like Instagram stories and the messaging that I gave and like doing Facebook Live, like even my early interviews on my podcast. Oh, I cannot listen to them. They make me hurt.
Don't ever
They
go
make me
back.
cringe.
Don't ever go back.
No, you can't. It's so bad. But I remember just talking in a way that I was trying to sound more professional, trying to be more formal, trying to fit into this mold that I clearly wasn't. And like, I swear it was like a light switch. The moment that I finally was like, well, I have no more F's to give. Okay, clearly this is not working. I'm just going to be my very normal, casual 20-something self on the internet. That's when people started resonating with me. And that's when people started like, you know, when they saw like, you know, how funny I was or how I like brought in different examples or like just was very much myself. That's my teaching style. Even if I like go and teach, you know, at a masterclass or at a conference or something like that, my style is very funny. It's very bring in a lot of stories. It's very like, keep it real, girl. I'm not going to straight face it the whole time and like give you a bunch of facts and stats and whatever. And so that transition was scary because I was like, oh my God, like it's one thing to put yourself out there on the internet. It's another thing to put your real self out there on the internet, because then you're like, oh my God, if they don't like this, like that's actually me, which means they don't like me. And so it's so scary. But I'm so thankful that I did, because honestly, you can't build an authentic brand if you're not being your authentic self.
And that's the power, guys, of personal branding and tying that into your business brand. Like you don't have to kind of fake it online just because you think that's what people want to see or that's what people want to hear or how they want to see it or how they want to hear it. Madison is literally saying, by being herself and not filtering yourself to an extent, I guess, right? But being your funny self, being a little bit in your face, being raw and being real, that's what resonates with your audience. That's why you keep getting booked for these conferences, or you keep getting asked to be on podcasts, you keep getting those membership payments coming through on your phone while you're sleeping. You know, like that's the difference between a brand that's going to last years and years to come and a brand that will last a few years, is the personality behind it. And you kill it, girl.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I also feel like the brands that build that loyalty over the years are the ones who are transparent about their wins and their losses.
Absolutely.
Because, right, like I was so embarrassed to admit that I didn't hit my goal basically every time. But because there have been so many times that I haven't hit my goal, and I always think in the back of my head, like, oh my God, they're going to think, you know, I'm not worthy of this, X, Y, and Z. But what it's actually showing them is this is how you navigate quote unquote failure. This is like, oh, she still thinks it's worth serving me because she's still showing up. Or she still like, she actually means it when she says she's serving me. It's not just for her ego. You know, like you're not just building a personal brand for your ego. If you can show up after your failures, after public failures, if you're still showing up and serving your community, that speaks way more volumes than, oh my gosh, we hit a, you know, ginormous goal.
Yeah. And there's something to be said about that. Like, I'm just thinking about me and myself and my own business. I've hit goals plenty of times, but I've probably not hit goals twice that amount. And that's like stuff that needs to be talked about like way more publicly. And I'm going to make it a mission to talk about that a bit more, because you're right. It's like I'm reaching an income goal, a 6-figure income goal for this year. I'm extremely close. And this is me publicly saying it. Maybe I say it somewhere else. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It will happen the next year, 2 times that. If it does happen, you guys are freaking celebrating with me. You know what I mean? Like it's not just about income. It's about anything. Like you book a certain amount of clients in a program, you sell out a certain amount of your membership, or you sit down and you write that book that you want to write, whether you did it in the time frame you wanted to do or you not. It's like, if we can take people on that journey, we're showing that real side of sometimes we hit it and sometimes we don't, but we're going to try damn hard to hit it.
And like sharing it in real time, and not just when you've made it to the top and now decide to write a book about it and then include all the failures that were along the way. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like no one shares in like live action of the messy middle. And I don't know why.
The messy middle. That's like a show. Let's start.
Is it?
I don't know. I feel like we need to start the messy middle as a show.
The messy middle. There you go.
Messy middle. Coming fall 2021.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. What are you working on next inside your business?
We are really focusing on the Fearless Chase Academy. have been one to be super multi-passionate and try to put my hand in a million different pots. And that for me does not tend to work out because then I'm not getting like one thing super great before moving on to the next.
Totally.
And so we are putting all of our focus into the Fearless Chase Academy. And then once events are back up and running, as of now, we're planning for September 2021 for our conference that was supposed to happen September 2020. But when we can do full-blown events again, we are planning to do full-blown in-person conferences that are amazing and exciting and all of that kind of stuff too.
That's so exciting. Do you usually do them in Houston, in Texas?
So the last year we did it in New Braunfels, which is in between San Antonio and Austin. And then next year we will be doing it in Austin. But I would love to do, I have it on my radar that eventually I'd love to do retreats all over the world.
Yeah.
Like more intimate retreats, then also full-blown conferences, anything that brings women together and allows them to have fun and learn and grow and connect. Yeah. That's my jam.
Yeah. I'm here for it. Sign me up.
Yes.
So where can we find more of you? Where can we find this amazing community and academy that you have? And any last thoughts do you have for us today?
So the academy is madisonanaya.com/academy. And we are opening the doors January 5th through the 12th, 2021 for our next semester. They open quarterly. So if you didn't get in this round, you'll be able to get in March. And then I love to hang out over on Instagram at Madison Bailey Anaya. Please shoot me a DM and say like, hey, I heard you on the podcast. I'd love to be friends because I for real want to be your friend, like not just say like I really do want to be your friend and send you a letter and like, send each other. I don't do Snapchat because I thought that was dead several years ago, but apparently my 9th grade cousin tells me that it's back up and running. So I won't snap you, but I'll send you some Insta stories. And let's see, last thing to leave you with. I think I would just hit on again to really define what your version of success is for the next year, or if you can even dream it, the next 5 years, and then take a look at what your business goals are and see if they're in alignment with that. Yeah. Because sometimes we can pick just kind of arbitrary like business goals because we think that's what we're supposed to be trying to hit. And it's not actually in alignment with what we really want. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here today. This is such an amazing conversation. I can't wait for people to hear it. And I have a feeling you'll be back on in the near future.
I would love that. You are an amazing, amazing host. You asked so many great questions. Thank you for having me on.
We'll talk to you soon, guys.